Welcome to another episode of True Crime Documentary, where we uncover the darkest aspects of human behavior. Today, we explore a chilling case from the quiet town of Southville, Texas, where a secret affair led to a deadly outcome. A young man's life was tragically cut short in a crime that shocked an entire community. This is the story of Tyler Martin, a 19-year-old whose life ended in a twisted affair that spiraled out of control. Tyler Martin was just 19 years old, brimming with dreams and hopes for the future. He lived in Southville, Texas, a peaceful town outside of Houston. Tyler was a senior at Southville High School, where he excelled in both academics and automotive studies. He had a deep passion for cars, spending countless hours working on engines and dreaming of one day opening his own auto repair shop. His friends often saw him with grease-stained hands, tinkering with old vehicles in his driveway. Tyler lived with his grandmother, a woman who had lost her sight and relied on him for daily care. Despite his age, Tyler took on this responsibility with a maturity far beyond his years. He balanced school, a part-time job at a local garage, and caring for his grandmother without complaint. Neighbors often remarked on his kindness, noting how he always found time to help anyone in need. Tyler had been dating Emma Clark for 2 years. Emma, also 19, was a smart, driven young woman who shared his dreams of a bright future. They talked about getting married after graduation and starting a family. Tyler often saved his money to take Emma out to nice places, where they would discuss their future over a good meal. The couple was inseparable, and everyone expected them to have a long, happy life together. But beneath the surface, there was a dark secret. Tyler was having an affair with Emma's mother, Lisa Clark, a 44-year-old woman who owned a multi-level marketing company called Glamour Glow. Lisa was attractive and successful, but she had a complicated relationship with her daughter, often competing with her for male attention. Tyler's affair with Lisa was a secret that weighed heavily on him, complicating his life in ways he had never anticipated. Despite his dreams and plans, Tyler's life took a tragic turn. His secret affair would soon lead to a shocking and violent end, leaving the community of Southville stunned and his loved ones devastated by the loss of a young man with so much potential. On the morning of September 15, 2022, Southville, Texas, was already feeling the oppressive summer heat. Around 8 a.m. in the morning, Tyler Martin's grandmother, Helen, noticed something was wrong. Helen, blind and dependent on Tyler for care, hadn't heard him moving around the house that morning. Worried, she called out to him, but there was no answer. Sensing something was off, she managed to dial a neighbor, Mrs. Betty Saunders, for help. Mrs. Saunders, a retired nurse who lived just 2 houses down, rushed over. She had known Tyler since he was a little boy and couldn't imagine anything being seriously wrong. But as soon as she stepped into the house, she felt a chill. The living room was eerily quiet, and there was an unusual metallic smell in the air. Mrs. Saunders called out to Tyler, but the house remained silent. She followed the scent to Tyler's bedroom as she pushed the door open. The sight before her was unimaginable. Tyler's lifeless body lay sprawled on the floor, practically floating in his own blood. He had been brutally stabbed multiple times, and his eyes were nearly gouged out. The knife, still soaked in blood, was on the floor beside him. Mrs. Saunders froze in shock, her hand trembling as she dialed 911. Her voice, usually calm and reassuring, was shaky as she reported the scene to the operator. "Oh, officer, there's blood everywhere," she stammered. Within minutes, police and paramedics arrived at the modest 1-story home on Elm Street. The flashing lights and the crowd of neighbors who gathered outside added to the surreal atmosphere. As the first responders entered the house, they were met with a gruesome scene that would haunt them for years. Mrs. Saunders, who had initially tried to stay calm, was now visibly shaken, leaning on another neighbor for support. Helen, still in her chair in the living room, kept asking what was happening, unaware of the horror just a few rooms away. The once quiet neighborhood was now the epicenter of a brutal crime, one that would leave everyone reeling. The Southville Police Department arrived at Tyler Martin's home within minutes of Mrs. Saunders' 911 call on the morning of September 15, 2022. Leading the investigation was Detective Jack Monroe, a seasoned investigator with over 20 years on the force, known for his no-nonsense approach and dedication. Monroe was a respected figure in the department. He was joined by Detective Laura Perez, a younger, sharp-minded officer with a keen eye for detail. As they entered the house, the crime scene was immediately overwhelming. The once cozy bedroom was now a gruesome sight. Blood spattered the walls and floor, creating a chaotic pattern that told the story of extreme violence and desperation. The smell of iron hung thick in the air, mixing with the oppressive heat of the September morning. Tyler's body lay crumpled on the floor, the brutality of the attack evident from the multiple stab wounds and the near gouging of his eyes. The kitchen knife used in the attack, a common but deadly weapon, was found beside him, covered in blood. Detective Monroe, despite his years of experience, couldn't help but feel a knot in his stomach as he surveyed the scene. He knew immediately that this wasn't a random act of violence. The ferocity of the attack suggested something deeply personal. This wasn't just a murder, Monroe believed. This was a crime of passion. Perez began photographing the scene, carefully documenting every detail. They collected evidence meticulously, ensuring nothing was overlooked. The knife, the blood patterns, and any fingerprints were all carefully recorded. Forensics would later analyze these to piece together the sequence of events. As they worked, the detectives also noted the state of the rest of the house. The living room, where Tyler's grandmother, Helen, sat, remained untouched, a stark contrast to the horror in the bedroom. This indicated that the attack was swift, catching Tyler off guard, possibly during an early morning routine. Outside, the neighbors had gathered, murmuring among themselves, trying to make sense of the tragedy that had struck their quiet community. Detective Monroe knew the importance of acting quickly. He assigned officers to canvass the neighborhood, hoping someone might have seen or heard something unusual. In a close-knit place like Southville, where everyone knew each other, there was always the chance that someone had noticed something that could break the case wide open. The first suspect on Detective Monroe's list was Lisa Clark, the mother of Tyler's girlfriend, Emma. Lisa was 44 years old and had always been the center of attention in Southville's social circles. She was known for her striking looks and her successful multi-level marketing company, Glamour Glow, which sold cosmetics and skincare products. Some locals whispered that her business was a scam, but Lisa dismissed the criticism, enjoying the financial rewards and the spotlight. Lisa had a complicated relationship with her daughter, Emma. While they appeared close, friends noticed an underlying tension between them, often stemming from Lisa's jealousy of Emma's youth and beauty. Lisa had a habit of competing with her daughter for attention, especially from men. This rivalry took a dark turn when Lisa began an affair with Tyler Martin, her daughter's boyfriend. The affair was a closely guarded secret, known only to the two of them, as it was the kind of secret that could destroy lives. Lisa justified the relationship as a way to reclaim her lost youth. But it was clear to those close to her that she was becoming dangerously obsessed with Tyler. When Detective Jack Monroe and Detective Laura Perez brought Lisa in for questioning, she was visibly shaken but tried to maintain her composure. Dressed impeccably in a tailored pantsuit with flawless makeup, there was a nervousness in her eyes that didn't go unnoticed. The detectives began with routine questions, asking about her relationship with Tyler and her whereabouts on the night of the murder. Lisa claimed that she had been home alone, working late into the night on her business. Her voice was steady, but there was a slight edge to her tone. When asked about Tyler, she described him as a handsome young man, but downplayed their relationship, referring to him as just her daughter's boyfriend. However, as the questioning continued, her composure began to crack. When Monroe pressed her about the affair, Lisa's demeanor changed. She became defensive, her answers short and clipped. She initially denied the affair, but when presented with evidence, she broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she confessed to the affair, but vehemently denied any involvement in Tyler's murder. "He was my angel boy," she cried. God is my witness, I would never hurt him." Despite her emotional outburst, Detective Monroe remained unconvinced. Her obsession with Tyler and the intense jealousy she harbored toward her daughter made her a prime suspect. The second suspect in the investigation was Emma Clark, the 19-year-old daughter of Lisa Clark and Tyler Martin's girlfriend. Emma was a bright, ambitious young woman who had just graduated high school in June of 2022. She was looking forward to starting college in the fall, with plans to study business management at the University of Texas. Friends and family described Emma as kind-hearted, but sometimes overshadowed by her mother's dominant personality. Emma and Tyler had been dating for 2 years, and by all accounts, they were deeply in love. They had even discussed getting married after Emma finished high school, a plan that had excited both of their families in a conservative town where young marriages were common. However, the revelation of her mother's affair with Tyler had shattered Emma's world. The discovery of the betrayal left her heartbroken and furious, but she claimed that she was innocent of any involvement in Tyler's death. When detectives brought Emma in for questioning, she appeared emotionally drained. Dressed in jeans and a t-shirt from her high school senior class, she seemed much younger than her age, almost childlike in her grief. Detective Monroe and Detective Perez began the interrogation gently, asking her to recount her relationship with Tyler and how she discovered the affair. Emma's voice trembled as she spoke, her eyes filled with tears. She described how she had accidentally stumbled upon sexually explicit texts between her mother and Tyler a few days before his death. The discovery led to a heated argument between her and Lisa, but Emma claimed she had tried to move past it. "I loved Tyler, and I didn't want to lose him," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. However, when asked about her whereabouts on the night of the murder, Emma's story became less clear. She insisted that she had been at a sleepover at her friend Sarah's house, just a few blocks away from Tyler's home, but she struggled to provide details about the evening. When questioned separately, Sarah confirmed that Emma had been there but mentioned that Emma had left around midnight, a few hours before the estimated time of the murder. As the detectives pressed Emma further, her demeanor shifted from sadness to defensiveness. She denied any involvement in Tyler's death, but the anger in her voice was evident. "I would never hurt him," she repeated, though her hands trembled as she spoke. When shown evidence of the affair, including Lisa's explicit texts sent to Tyler, Emma broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Her grief was raw, but it also raised questions. Was she crying out of loss, or was there something more she was hiding? Despite her emotional state, Emma maintained her innocence throughout the interrogation. She admitted to feeling betrayed and angry, but insisted she wasn't capable of murder. However, her unclear alibi and the intensity of her emotions left Detective Monroe with lingering doubts. The third suspect in the investigation was Robert Bob Clark, the 48-year-old father of Emma Clark and husband of Lisa Clark. Robert was a successful lawyer, known locally as an ambulance chaser, due to his reputation for taking on personal injury cases. He was well known in Southville, Texas, for his sharp legal mind and his ability to win cases, but also for his tendency to be absent from home due to his demanding work schedule. Robert was a man who valued appearances. He took pride in maintaining a picture-perfect family image, even if it meant turning a blind eye to the troubles brewing under his own roof. While Robert was often away at the office or in court, he wasn't entirely oblivious to the tension and the game of sexual jealousy between Lisa and Emma. He had his suspicions about Lisa's behavior, particularly her inappropriate sexual interest in other men, but he chose to ignore it, hoping it would resolve itself. When the police called Robert in for questioning, he appeared composed, dressed in a crisp white shirt and tie, as if preparing for a day in court. Detective Monroe and Detective Perez started the interrogation by asking Robert about his relationship with his wife and daughter. Robert described his marriage to Lisa as complicated, but insisted that they had a strong bond and had sex regularly. He claimed that his relationship with Emma was also on good terms, though he admitted that they weren't as close as he would have liked, partly due to his long work hours. The detectives then shifted the focus to Tyler. Robert admitted that he liked Tyler and thought he was a good match for Emma. However, when confronted with the affair between Tyler and Lisa, Robert's demeanor changed. He clenched his jaw and avoided eye contact, clearly uncomfortable with the topic. He claimed that he was unaware of the affair until after Tyler's death, stating, "If I had known, I would have put a stop to it immediately." The detectives pressed Robert on his whereabouts on the night of the murder. He stated that he had been working late at his office, reviewing a case file for an upcoming trial. He provided the names of colleagues who could vouch for his alibi, but his tone was defensive. Robert's response to the interrogation was calm but distant, giving the impression that he was holding back. As the questioning continued, Robert maintained his innocence, insisting that he had nothing to do with Tyler's death. However, his reluctance to discuss the affair and his apparent detachment from the situation left the detectives uneasy. Was Robert truly ignorant of his wife's actions, or was he hiding something to protect his family's reputation? Despite his calm exterior, Robert's evasiveness during the interrogation raised suspicions. The detectives couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story than he was letting on. On a scorching afternoon in mid-September 2022, the police received a tip that would change the course of the investigation. It was around 3 p.m. in the afternoon when Detective Monroe's phone rang. The caller, who wished to remain anonymous, claimed to have critical information about Lisa Clark, one of the key suspects in Tyler Martin's murder. The tipster hinted at something more sinister than just an affair, a secret that Lisa had been hiding for years. The detectives wasted no time. They drove straight to Lisa's office, located in a small, nondescript building on the outskirts of Southville. The sign above the door read, "Glamour Glow," the name of the multi-level marketing company Lisa had been running for nearly a decade. From the outside, the office looked like any other small business, but inside, the detectives would uncover a shocking twist. As they entered the office, the detectives were struck by the eerie quiet. The place was filled with beauty products, shelves lined with creams, lotions, and makeup, but there were no employees in sight. Detective Perez noticed a locked door at the back of the office. After some persuasion, Lisa's assistant, a nervous young woman in her early 20s, reluctantly handed over the key. Behind the door was Lisa's private office, and what the detectives found inside was both disturbing and revealing. The walls were covered with photographs, many of them nude, of Tyler, most of which were sexually explicit and inappropriate. In one corner, there was a makeshift love shrine dedicated to him, complete with candles, trinkets, and handwritten notes. It was clear that Lisa's obsession with Tyler had gone far beyond a simple affair. But that wasn't all. As the detectives continued their search of the office, they uncovered a stack of documents that exposed the dark side of Glamour Glow. The MLM scheme wasn't just a business. It was a scam that preyed on vulnerable women in the South, many of whom were single mothers struggling financially. The documents revealed that Lisa had been exploiting these women, convincing them to invest thousands of dollars in beauty products they couldn't sell, while forcing them to work up to 20 hours a day to pay off their debts. The financial strain had ruined hundreds of lives, leaving these women in despair. The discovery of Lisa's fraudulent business practices provided a new motive for the murder. Lisa's world was beginning to fall apart, and the pressure of maintaining her image, combined with her obsessive love for Tyler, may have driven her to kill. With this new evidence, the police had a clearer picture of Lisa Clark, a woman willing to do anything to protect her secrets, even if it meant committing murder. The detectives knew they were closing in on the truth, but they also understood that uncovering the full extent of Lisa's crimes would be no easy task. On September 25, 2022, the authorities in Southville, Texas, were finally ready to take action. After meticulously piecing together the evidence, including the disturbing discoveries at Lisa Clark's Glamour Glow office, they were confident in identifying the person responsible for Tyler Martin's brutal murder. Lisa, at 44, had become increasingly obsessed with her daughter's boyfriend, leading her to commit an unimaginable crime. Lisa Clark was well known as a charismatic and successful businesswoman, running a multi-level marketing company called Glamour Glow. However, beneath her polished exterior, Lisa was harboring dark secrets. The investigation uncovered that she had been having an affair with Tyler for several months. When Tyler attempted to end the affair to focus on his relationship with Lisa's daughter, Emma, Lisa's obsession took a deadly turn. On the night of the murder, Lisa confronted Tyler in the kitchen of his grandmother's house, a place where they had met in secret many times before. Driven by jealousy and the fear of losing control, Lisa seized a kitchen knife and stabbed Tyler multiple times. The attack was brutal, leaving him with severe wounds and nearly gouged out eyes. After the murder, Lisa attempted to cover her tracks, but her obsessive behavior and fraudulent business dealings eventually led the authorities directly to her. The arrest occurred in the early morning hours of September 25th. The authorities arrived at Lisa's upscale home in a quiet suburban neighborhood just as the sun began to rise. They knocked on the door, and Lisa answered, still in her silk pajamas, clearly not expecting visitors. The detectives calmly informed her that she was under arrest for the murder of Tyler Martin. Lisa's reaction was a mix of shock and defiance. She tried to maintain her composure, but the authorities could see the panic in her eyes. As Lisa was handcuffed and led to the waiting vehicle, her neighbors watched in disbelief. Many had admired Lisa for her business success, unaware of the dark truth behind her glamorous facade. News of her arrest spread quickly throughout the community, and by the time the vehicle drove away, the streets were buzzing with gossip. Back at the station, Lisa was booked and placed in a holding cell. The detectives interrogated her, but she denied everything, insisting on her innocence. However, the evidence against her was overwhelming, and the authorities were confident they had the right person. The arrest brought a sense of relief to Tyler's family, who had been living in fear and uncertainty since his death. While the case was far from over, with Lisa Clark in custody, the authorities were one step closer to achieving justice for Tyler Martin. The trial of Lisa Clark for the murder of Tyler Martin began on December 10, 2022, at the Harris County Courthouse in Southville, Texas. The case had garnered significant media attention, with local news outlets covering every detail. The courtroom was packed with spectators eager to see how the case would unfold. The prosecution was led by Assistant District Attorney Martin Steele, a seasoned lawyer known for his tenacity in the courtroom. Steele, 53, had a reputation for being thorough and reliable, and this case was no exception. From the outset, he painted a damning picture of Lisa as a woman driven by jealousy and obsession. He argued that Lisa had brutally murdered Tyler in a fit of rage after he attempted to end their affair. Using physical evidence and testimony from investigators to support his case, Steele also exposed Lisa's business, Glamour Glow, as a fraudulent scheme that preyed on vulnerable women, further portraying her as a manipulative and dangerous individual. On the defense side was attorney Charles Chuck Monroe, a sharp and experienced lawyer with a history of defending high-profile clients. Monroe, 49, was known for his calm demeanor and ability to create doubt in the minds of jurors. He argued that the evidence against Lisa was circumstantial and suggested that someone else, possibly Emma Clark, could have committed the crime. Monroe also tried to humanize Lisa, portraying her as a loving mother and successful businesswoman who had been unfairly targeted by the media and prosecution. As the trial progressed, the emotional toll on Tyler's family was evident. His grandmother, who had raised him, attended every session, clutching a worn photograph of Tyler. His girlfriend, Emma Clark, sat with her father, both visibly shaken by the proceedings. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, especially during the testimony of the lead detective, who detailed the gruesome nature of Tyler's injuries and the evidence linking Lisa to the crime. On December 24, 2022, after 2 weeks of testimony and just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. Lisa Clark was found guilty of first-degree murder. The verdict was met with tears of relief from Tyler's family, while Lisa remained stoic, though the color drained from her face as the word guilty echoed through the courtroom. The punishment was handed down on January 5, 2023. Lisa was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence was a harsh but fitting end to a case that had shocked the community. For Tyler's family, the verdict brought a sense of justice, though the pain of losing him would never fully heal. The trial also exposed the dark side of Lisa's business, leading to further investigations into Glamour Glow and its practices. The sentencing marked the end of one chapter, but left many in the community reflecting on the tragedy and its lasting impact. After the trial, life in Southville, Texas, slowly returned to normal, but the shock of Tyler Martin's murder lingered in the community. The close-knit neighborhood, where everyone knew each other's business, was forever changed. The once bustling Clark household became quiet. Lisa Clark's life sentence left a void in the family that was hard to fill. Her husband, Robert Clark, a successful lawyer, tried to maintain a sense of normalcy, but the scandal and loss weighed heavily on him. He continued his work, but withdrew from social circles, avoiding the curious stares and whispered conversations that followed him everywhere he went. Emma Clark, Lisa's daughter, struggled to move forward. The revelation of her mother's affair with Tyler and the brutal murder had shattered her world. She left Southville shortly after the trial, enrolling in a college out of state to escape the painful memories. Though she tried to focus on her studies, the trauma was never far from her mind. Friends said she became more reserved, no longer the bright and ambitious girl she once was. The aftermath of the trial also had a significant impact on the broader community. Glamour Glow, Lisa's multi-level marketing company, came under intense scrutiny. Investigations revealed the extent of the financial and emotional damage caused by the company, leading to its eventual shutdown. Many women who had invested in the business were left in debt, their lives upended by the scam. Local news outlets continued to cover the fallout, and the scandal became a cautionary tale about the dangers of predatory businesses. In the end, the trial and its aftermath left a lasting mark on everyone involved. It was a tragic reminder of how quickly lives can be torn apart and how the consequences of one person's actions can ripple through an entire community.